And we are now live. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with me. My name is Tyler Ellison, and this is my amazing friend, Karissa. Hello, Karissa.
Hello, everyone.
So we have a really exciting announcements that we are going to be sharing with all of you now. In January, me and Karissa have an upcoming workshop that is going to be 3 weeks in length, a total of 6 classes, 6 trainings. And in this program, this training, this retreat, we're going to be diving into ancient techniques that enable you to access your sexual energy, the power of arousal, the power of orgasm, so you can move that energy throughout your body for purposes of healing, for purposes of awakening the energy centers, and also for manifestation, either material manifestation or spiritual manifestation. So these are things that can be done solo. If you are just single and it's just you and yourself, you can learn these techniques and apply them. If you're in a relationship, you and your partner can learn these techniques and you can apply them. And what I'm really excited about is me and Karissa have really been honing in on what exactly we're going to be bringing to the training, to the program we're going to be having. And I think that Karissa, me and you are really complementing each other and are unifying two different sides of the same coin in relationship to sexual alchemy, but also sacred sexuality. And I sort of feel that with the material you're bringing, the dimension of sacred sexuality really gets highlighted. And I would love for you to share a little bit about maybe what you're really excited about and some of the material that you're going to be offering to folks who attend our workshop.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. First off, I just wanted to say I'm so grateful and so excited to co-host this container with you because simply the vibrational potential, the capacity of what's presented, even just in our beingness, is so high, so electric, so ecstatic that I personally benefit every single time we have a conversation. So I just know that that's going to translate beautifully to a container where that's going to be even more amplified as we're just vessels for the information. So what I'm excited about in this moment is whew, how how it's going to look, how it's going to feel, how it's going to express itself when the participants come into this container and maybe they've had what they would consider to be a sexual awakening, or maybe they've had kundalini risings, and maybe they didn't sustain that energetic link. But they've been curious, and they know that this topic sparks their curiosity. And, they're self-aware. So the people who this is for, they know that there's some sort of they have an edge. Like there's an edge to maybe how much pleasure they're willing to receive, maybe what they're willing to express, maybe their desires or what they don't want. And these are all components of our sexual being nature, because I like to say that sexual energy isn't polarizing, it's neutral, it's life force, but our definitions and labels of it create all these kind of funny distortions about it. And so my joy is in bringing this playfulness, bringing this receptivity, bringing this openness to our humanness, to our to the innocence, or our, like I like to say, our erotic innocence. Say that 3 times fast. Our erotic innocence. So why I find this to be so beneficial for the people it's meant for is because in my community, I've seen a tendency to kind of take the masculine path of spirituality or seeking and kind of go up and out of the body and into these mystical states. And in my path, I have seen the value of the masculine and feminine balancing, which also means bringing heaven into the body. Like, what does that mean? How does that feel? And so, like you were discussing these heightened states of arousal or ecstasy, it's possible to increase and experience an ever increasing amount of pleasure and gratitude and awe and fulfillment. And at least for myself and the people around me, whenever we block off a part of our pleasure because we judge it, or because it seems like it's too much, that equates to every part of our lives. So part of my offering is how do we create a foundational sense of safety to just be in your body and to feel what's going on? Because if you're not allowing yourself to just feel naturally anything as it's happening and allowing, emotion, energy and motion to flow through, then you also cannot experience the pleasures of life to the fullest, because the body is trying to protect. And whenever it's in that survival protective mode, there's no way it's going to be thinking about pleasure. It's just thinking about trying to survive, which is unfortunately what many people are unconscious of, just holding those traumatic conditioning. So what I enjoy providing is, for example, somatic experiencing and leading people through relaxing deep enough, dropping those defenses of the mind and of the body that are unconscious, that we have armored in, say, maybe the cervix, maybe in the womb, maybe in the throat, even in our mind, aspects of our psyche. These very subtle protective mechanisms, what we will do is drop the defenses by providing that safe space on every level, not just a mental level. And then once we have that platform of perceived safety, then the nervous system can switch into that thriving state that is receptive, that is creative, and actually will allow the full circulation of chi to move through the body, because there's always going to be a kink in the hose, right? As long as we're holding on to pain of some kind. So my aspect and what I bring is much more focused on the body's sensations, the somatic experience, the emotional and feeling states of what it means to embody pleasure, embody ecstasy, embody bliss, and be able to feel it on a full body, full soul scale, not just mentally because I left and went to another dimension, which for me was so exciting. Like, wait, it gets even better. Like I can feel it on so many nuanced levels. And of course, this applies and affects every single area of your life, like you were discussing. Like it affects your health on every level. It affects your relationships. It affects how you communicate with others. It affects what you're willing to say is even possible in your life. Because right when the mind is like, ooh, this is my threshold, and we can't go above that because I can't see how that's happening, that is completely creating what is possible for us. So I see how this topic positively impacts every area of our lives, and we're just getting started. So thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to get into with this. And one of the things I just want to touch on is exactly what you said about how issues with sexuality will affect every area of our lives. And the thing I want to highlight there is that our sexual energy in terms of yoga, right, is very much connected to the root chakra. It's oftentimes corresponded to the sacral chakra. But when we look at the idea of the root, right, this is closer to the sexual area. It's more foundational, and it's also where the Kundalini energy is rising. So because our sexual energy is entangled with our root chakra, or that lower energy center, it is entangled with our sense of survival. It's entangled with our sense of being a part of a community. It's entangled with our sense of resources. And the reason that sexuality has been so taboo or so repressed or so demonized is because many religious authorities, essentially, that desire to have greater levels of control over the members of the religion, intentionally vilified the sexual energy, knowing that if they could create an imbalance in that area, they would essentially create an imbalance in multiple areas of a person's life, which would increase the dependence on the external authority to help heal and alleviate those imbalances, even though the root of the imbalances is the religious ideology. Not saying all religions are bad or all religions are anti-sex, but I just want to remind people of where a lot of these issues come from. A lot of it is just cultural conditioning, and the de-armoring, the releasing, all of this is just so you can really let go of what's not natural to you, so you can get back to your body, because your body contains wisdom, intelligence, and as you connect more into the body, you connect more to yourself. You get to understand more about what you prefer in your life, what you don't prefer, what's a part of your path, what's not a part of your path. It all comes from the body. In Taoism, we say that the body is a microcosm. So the planets, the stars, the elements all have some kind of reflective connection to the physical body. When we use the sexual energy to awaken these different connections in the body, we start to merge our consciousness and our energy reserves with whatever the correspondent connection is. So, for example, bringing the sexual energy into the heart center gives us a solar power. We get sun energy from here. So this can express in multiple ways. For example, solar energy can be more charisma, right? More joy, being warmer. Solar energy connecting to gold can also translate to things like abundance, luxury, these types of qualities. So if you know the connection in the body, and you know what type of power in the universe or element in the universe it connects to, you can use the sexual energy to awaken that part of yourself and bring that quality more into your life. And without that embodied connection, spiritual evolution is slower. It's slower. In the West, we say there's body, there's mind, there's spirit, right? But in Eastern culture, it's all one thing. It's all one thing. You can make these differentiations that, oh, I have a mind, oh, I have a body. But in the Tao, we see the body and the mind as one substance, one thing. So if the body is weak, the mind will be weak in certain areas. There's always ways to work around this, but for the most part, right, if a body is burdened, if a body is sick, if a body is unhappy, a person's spiritual evolution will be a little bit more challenging. It's not impossible, but there's more challenge there. And with the physicality, that can create a kind of amplified challenge. So in these trainings, we'll be getting into things like Karissa had mentioned, de-armoring. We're going to be getting into things where we're going to be sending a loving energy in the body. We're going to be bringing light through the body to really clean it out, to help everyone here let go of whatever is holding them back to the best of their ability. And the trainings we'll be giving will also be routines. So you'll be able to take what you learn in the class, and it won't just be like, that's it. You're going to be getting the recording. So on your own time, you're going to be able to practice a lot of this. You'll be able to internalize these exercises, and we're picking really the best of the best. So me and Karissa have selected from all of our trainings, from all of our expertise, the techniques, the modalities, and the things that are not only simple to do, but we have also deemed the most efficacious. So what you're going to be getting in here is something you'll be able to immediately apply, something you'll be able to get results from, and something that will be sustainable. This is going to be material you'll be able to implement very easily into your life. You know, if you have, 20 minutes a day to just treat yourself to something beautiful, you'll have more than enough time to be able to reap the benefits of what we're going to be sharing in these programs.
Yes, exactly. And you said it so well. I'm glad you brought up that point, that the way that we structured this online retreat is so that it's not just a quick, oh, here's a bunch of information, pick what works best for you in this moment, and then like you move on. Because unfortunately, at least in my experience, like that's been great to excite my brain and be like, information. And then like I move on to the next shiny thing. And, creating a practice of connecting it with my body, charting my pleasure, these things that we're going to be teaching, having a daily practice of breathing and moving the energy, and also knowing what to do whenever there is a restriction or there is an emotional trigger. And now it feels like, I can't breathe and I can't get my mind off of this topic. Like what can we do in those moments, and then make that a consistent practice. That is what the space is there for, over the course of those 3 weeks, so that you can apply it and make that a regular part of your life, over the next year. And I think this is a really powerful way to begin the year, because as people are ideating and creating a vision for what they want to experience, this is a super powerful way to support those visions. Because when we receive a vision, right, we're like, day one, like, let's do this. And then day two, or the second step of that manifestation process, is like all of your crap shows up, and the doubt and the things that are not a match to that have to surface. And so the challenge is in that day, or the stage two of that manifestation process. And that's whenever having these tools for detaching or for moving energy through, those dense emotions that are going to be triggered, is so beneficial. And what I also see is the benefit of having a container with community to share your experience, to ask questions, and simply to have your voice be heard. Because many people still unconsciously and cyclically are working through repression as a child, because either your parents or your school or authority figures in your life, or your church had put limits on what was okay to talk about, what was okay to feel, what was okay to want. And simply bringing awareness to that and voicing it, and knowing that this is not abnormal. Like, the majority of people have some sort of limitation around their sexuality. And it's actually you're a minority if you have a completely full and healthy connection to your sexual essence. I think that has been so transformative for me personally. And I know that each of these 2-hour sessions that we're going to have twice a week, it's going to be gold. It's going to be so rich with going into what is my own personal practice, what is my own personal reality. And then after that reflection, being able to process into a new reality so that it can externalize itself. So you can see your experience shifting, because you have created an inner shift within yourself and opened up, like, this is allowed. So I feel that this container will feel like relief to the participants. That is my intention, to provide the permission slips that feel like relief, that feel like relaxation, that feel like finally, like a full soul exhale. And then also the bonus on top of that is the embodiment of bliss that is actually sustainable and can be used as foundational piece. Right? Because when we're no longer just accepting those kinks in our hoses as like, this is normal, this is life, amazing things can unfold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those kinks too, in the modalities we'll be working with, they're oftentimes referred to as ice. So we think of a blockage as frozen ice. When we're utilizing the energies of love, which are again heart energies, solar energies, we're working with more yang types of chi, which are capable then of melting the ice. So when we direct this heart energy to the areas of blocks, and we bring in the breath, we bring in the heartbeat, we bring in our attention, the ice starts to transform into steam. So what ends up happening is your blockages, even though at first they might seem very uncomfortable, very intense, through making peace with these energies, we give them a space to transform. That steam that's produced from the ice melting is a type of energy that you can then use. You have created an alchemical reaction yourself, where you have taken lead, you have made it into gold, right? So you've taken the sunlight of the heart, transformed the ice that is the negativity. When we bring the sexual energy into this practice, In other words, when we have taken the energies of the heart and we bring it down into the sexual centers, the heart and sexual centers represent opposite polarities, sun and moon. So when you're bringing the heart energy down into the sexual center, that alchemical process happens times 10. A very powerful reaction happens where you start to feel in your lower center that you are making a power, and it almost feels like an emanation from your body. And once we have this loving power, we can bring that to anywhere in the body we want to enlighten. Anywhere where there is imbalance, could be physical, mental, emotional. Sexual energy on its own, as you said, Karissa, is neutral. Therefore, it is a very powerful amplifier. Whatever you give it, it makes more of it, right? You give it negative energy, sexual energy is going to amplify the negativity. Give it positive energy, it's going to amplify the positivity. So a big part of the training is really developing that open heart, that familiarity with the love that exists within you. So we can use the sexual energy to amplify that. And that's what we're bringing into the different centers. That's what we're circulating either through ourselves or our partner. If you are taking this workshop and you're in a relationship, we're going to be showing you how to move this healing power through you and your partner, circulating energy through the heart center of one another, through the crown centers, and even the out of body centers. You can build up so much energy that even these soul centers get turned on. So we're going to be getting into so much great material. And Karissa, I thank you so much for everything you have shared thus far too. We've, I think, really painted a clear picture for what people can expect. And to amplify this a little bit more, I'm going to give just a little bit of a teaser of one of the techniques that we're going to be going over in the workshop that you can actually start practicing now if you want. And the purpose of this technique is to strengthen the pelvic floor. So our pelvic floor, in many ways, weakens as we get older. And the pelvic floor supports all of the organs. It supports the rest of the body. The pelvic floor is like the foundation. It's the basement. It's also the root chakra area, right? So when the pelvic floor gets weak, control over the lower openings gets weak, which means through the lower orifices or openings, energy, chi can leave, right? And as you get older, more generally tends to leave. Through strengthening the pelvic floor, the lower openings become astringed. In other words, they get tighter. So that way you don't leak as much chi. That's just a benefit in and of itself. You can experience that effect pretty immediately. You'll get more energy right off the bat from this exercise. And that's from limiting chi loss. The other thing is this pelvic floor, specifically the perineum. In Chinese medicine, we call this point hui yin. This is about a centimeter in front of the anus. It is a point that gathers the sexual energy. We call it a collection point, so it can store energy. When we have a very strong and healthy pelvic floor, the ability to store sexual energy increases. So from the sexual organs, we draw the energy into the perineum, into hui yin, and from here, we can then direct it to any part of the body. This is like our master launch pad. So once the energy's here, you can send it up the spine, up the center channel, up the front channel, up the left of your body, up the right, wherever you need it to go. It can go from there. You use the mind, the hands, the imagination to move it. So this hui yin pelvic floor strengthening is something that really needs to be mastered or at least deeply understood in order to become proficient at the sexual alchemy techniques. Because if that point's weak, it can't collect the energy very well, and then it doesn't move as powerfully as it could. So this exercise will help you strengthen that point. So it's quite simple. I'm going to stand up, and if you want to do it with me, feel free to. So the idea being that we're going to come up on the soles of the feet, or rather the balls of the feet, the soles of the feet. So we lift up and stand up. So we lift up, stand, and back down, right? So you can feel you're sort of doing a calf exercise, right? We're sort of using the calf muscle. This is a pump. When you're sitting for a while and this calf muscle doesn't get utilized, the blood will travel to the lower parts of the body. It then has issues circulating back up. But when you pump the calf like this, you're pumping the blood. So it's easier for it to circulate once more. So this is the basic exercise. The soles, right, which we're pushing down on as we come up, this is a point called kidney 1. This is where all of the yin power, the earth power comes up into the body. So this is also a very good point to exercise. Now, we're going to add in our pelvic floor contraction. So when you come up, the idea is inhale, contract the pelvic floor, eyes roll up. You want to feel like you're taking the pelvic floor and you're pulling it up with your breath all the way to your crown. So we inhale up, down, up, down, up, down. Let's do 2 more. And rest. So you might feel more energy just from doing that alone. This point, the shui yin point, is a reflexive point, which means it corresponds to our pineal gland. It connects to a different part of the body. When you're contracting this point, you are also creating a mirror contraction in the brain. So this is very, very energizing for cognition. And for our sexual alchemy practice, this type of technique is foundational. From here, it's all a matter of using that contraction to pull the sexual energy wherever it needs to go. So thank you for doing that with me, Karissa. That was fun.
Mm-hmm. My body needed that.
Yeah. Now that point, I just want to make, in case anyone was like, where am I contracting? How am I doing that? The point we're contracting, it's called the PC muscle. This is the muscle that whenever you stop the flow of urination, you're utilizing. So it's the muscle that stops the urination flow. If you can isolate that muscle, that's what you're contracting. When you contract it, don't squeeze. We're not gripping the muscle, right? It's not a death grip. We're just doing a very relaxed contraction, like you're closing a door and you don't want to slam it. That's the kind of pressure, like a Kegel. So for those of you that are interested in this workshop and you want to begin training, that exercise right there can be done 3 times a day. You can do 3 rounds of 9 if you wish. That's fine. But I encourage people, play with that. And if you can master that technique, you'll be very prepared for the workshop. You will get some serious results. So
Perfect. And I just wanted to say, if anyone's watching this, and if you identify as being highly sensitive or empathic, and perhaps one of your desires or something you know would be good for you would be working on your boundaries with yourself and boundaries with others, as well as increasing your sense of confidence and optimism. These are also really key ways that this container will support you. Because if I reflect back on who I was before I dived into this material versus who I am now, it is night and day how much confidence and optimism that I could get in contact with or allow, simply because I became more imbalanced with myself and my energy systems became more imbalanced. And that harmonization, when we are harmonized, health and well-being on every level is a natural byproduct. Then it's not something that you have to study or work towards or effort to get. It's a natural byproduct of simple things like breathing and visualization and sitting and letting yourself feel. And it can be so much more simpler than perhaps what we have assumed to experience these embodied states of bliss or deeper states of realization. So I just wanted to add that because it's important to notate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It can be simple. The point is simplicity. If it's too complex, who's got time for it, right? Life's already has enough complexities. So our goal is to help you simplify. And the benefit too of doing these practices, what I'll say is this: they feel good. I mean, you are using pleasure, you're using power and your body to essentially strengthen and evolve yourself. The trainings, the techniques are, for the most part, euphoric. Now, yes, blocks, resistances, negativity, maybe things you notice as you move through them. But what you'll find is through developing that relationship with these simple exercises, you're going to generate a momentum. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel like you have more energy, more chi, and it becomes more inviting, more exciting to keep that momentum going. I have found for myself, I practice every day. It's very rare I skip a day. And the reason I practice so much and do these exercises is not only does it help me in other areas of my life, like channeling or working with people in other capacities, but it also helps me to just feel good, to feel energized, and to feel like I'm in tune with myself ultimately. What I have found is if we don't have an inner practice, a space within ourselves where we can go to connect to our spirit, it becomes easier to create the experience of losing oneself through being too external, being too extroverted, being too of the world. I think we've all had that experience before, right? Where we're so extroverted, we're just so caught up in the flow of the external world. It's almost like we don't know ourselves or we've forgotten our purpose. And having this inner practice, this relationship with yourself, helps you to every day have this psychic space you can enter where you are reminded of who and what you really are. And you are, from that place, empowered to go forth into the world and to represent that and to be that. And that's ultimately what these practices are designed to do. We want you to be able to walk away from the program with the confidence knowing you can work with energy to make whatever changes you need to make in your reality.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautifully put. The prosperity and sense of power that comes from just allowing pleasure, it's profound. And who would have known that it could be so simple?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to highlight for everyone who's watching are the dates for this program we're going to be doing, just to remind everyone, and we'll give the times too. So our training is going to begin in January. It's going to begin on January 4th. This is a Tuesday. And the first week, the two trainings will be on the 4th and on the 7th. That's week 1. Week 2, the trainings will be on the 11th and on the 14th. Week 3, the trainings will be on the 18th and the 21st. Our trainings are going to begin at 10 a.m. Eastern time. For folks in Europe, that's going to be 3 p.m. for all of you. For folks in Thailand, which is where Karissa will be, that's going to be 10 p.m. So just be aware of those times. The sessions will be recorded, so you will be able to practice the material on your own. If you're there live, you have the benefit of being a part of the container, the community space. You will also have an opportunity to interact with me and Karissa and ask questions about the material, which is very important in case there's something you don't understand. So we do encourage that you are there live, but if something happens, we get it. You know, life's full of surprises. It will be recorded for you to review. And as we have said, the trainings will be cumulative. So each thing you get, we encourage you practice it on your own, develop a fluency and understanding of it, make it muscle memory out of it. And then the next training, we build on top of that. Each thing works together so you can gradually awaken these energies within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And one of my favorite things about simply hosting or being in a group container is that I've noticed the reality of the mechanics of reality is that it's such a powerful permission slip just to have a span of time, and also to have so many other beings and people to create that momentum. So if you have a specific thing you want to manifest or materialize, a specific way of relating to yourself, relating to your partner, relating to life in general, if you have an intention of any kind, you can bring it to this space because your own practice will create that momentum. And I would say if you have this idea of like, ooh, something feels a little bit out of my reach, like this is at my edge. And whenever I think about it, I get chills. Like I actually get buzzy in my system. That is a beautiful way to anchor, like, ooh, that's right at my edge of what I believe is possible. But if I were to have a really powerful permission slip to assist me in becoming a vibrational match to that, this kind of container is perfect for that. I've used it. I've had many people in my programs use it as in this way, even if it's simply as a manifestation portal for one specific reason. I would suggest that because it works.
Excellent. So, one of the things I want to invite folks to do, if you are interested, we have on our YouTube right now a chat box. So, if you like, me and Karissa are available for questions. So, if you have any questions about the workshop or about this topic at all, feel free to type that into the chat. So, just making that available for folks. So, Karissa, a question I want to ask you is when you first started really diving into this material, when you first started really working with your own energy, your own body wisdom, and when you started going within to connect to yourself, what were some of the changes you experienced in your life? Like, what did that process for you catalyze when you began yourself first experiencing many of the things that we're speaking about?
Okay, yeah, I love that question. And I just want to preface my answer with I'm petting my dog, and now I have
Oh, it's adorable.
I
Yes.
got that extra extra. Um, so I just want to preface that with like what were the thoughts I was having that the people who are listening or considering joining, like what are the thoughts that they might be having, because I also had them. And um, at that peak when I was just starting to shift into following my excitement and diving into these topics and basically activating the remembrance that comes really natural to me now. Some of those thoughts I had was even more of a feeling. It was actually more unconscious, but it was an unconscious um, belief that like there was a limit to what I got in life, or there, like I couldn't have it all, that kind of thing. Like there was like a belief, unconscious belief that like, God had like this weird kind of like there was so many disillusioned ideas, but it sounded like, oh, I can only have so much. So I can only have so much enjoyment, or I can only have so much money, or this or that. And so pleasure for me, and seeing that, there's no reason that like life is neutral. Life doesn't have an opinion about what I'm allowed to experience. And so as I began to journey and like unlock and remove the layers and the baggage that I had picked up in my conditioning, I started realizing, wow, I can let go of um, all of this self-judgment about myself and others in regards to my expression in any way, my desires in any way, my sexual expression in any way, and how I referenced myself. Because we experience or our sexuality is in the clothes we wear, how we speak, how we walk, even what job we have or career we have in our life. That like our sexuality is expressed in all of these ways. So as I started shifting into this like allowance of my fuller and fuller self, instead of repressing one part that seemed to be bad or scary or evil or untamable. That was another one. Like, ooh, I can't control it. Like, what if something bad happens? Like, all of the things that are connected to our primal nature came up. So much more self acceptance on so many levels opened up for me. And I started to notice, like, oh, wow, I was just, I was afraid of this, or I was reacting to this because I was afraid. And simply giving myself, what actually was the biggest thing was, now I give myself permission to want what I want and to have what I want, rather than fearing that even if I desired something, I was going to feel the negative effects of it not being fulfilled. So it opened up my heart. It opened up like my womb space in my imagination, because I was operating from a very contracted, limited, like, don't shoot for the stars because you'll be disappointed place. So it became sort of like a volcano about to erupt, because that friction, that inner catalyst became so strong that I couldn't contain what was coming to a head. And so with this volcanic eruption of, I don't want to keep existing how I was, I know that there is a freer, more enjoyable, more open way of feeling my heart, or just simply lighter. There's a lighter way that I can feel in my body. That was huge, just to reference that I could feel lighter, because I had been carrying this heavy, dense baggage around in my like sacral that was related to the guilt and shame. So what I've experienced and how I operate now in comparison is hugely night and day, because now it's not unconscious. If there's any sort of lie that I'm buying into that doesn't serve me, if I'm buying into an idea that doesn't really line up with the truth of what I am and who I am and what I came here to do, I feel it instantly. And there's no longer all these layers of stories about who I am and how that relates to my sexual expression or expression in general. I've released a massive amount of these stories, so that when a story does arrive in my consciousness, I can be like, oh, that doesn't feel how I prefer. My emotional guidance system is signaling. So essentially my sensitivity hugely opened up. And that's something we haven't even talked about, but your psychic senses, your superpowers, oh my goodness, it's like being able to finally see in color, in comparison, technicolor, and you didn't know you were only seeing things in grayscale your whole life. And so now it's like, whoa, this is like, I've got a VR headset on and all this color's coming at me. And so for literally an example, I'll walk outside every day and I'll like exclaim to myself, like, oh my God, like, it's so beautiful. And whoever's around, I'm going to point out and say, do you see that? And this happens every day.
That's the nature of it. I've experienced the same thing. It's like when this energy is moving through you, when it's liberated, you start to see things like a child again. Like the world becomes totally fresh. I'm with you. I remember my sister was visiting me one time and we were taking a walk and I was looking at the sky and I was like, look at the clouds. Oh my God. And she was like, yeah, the clouds. I was like, do you see these clouds? They are more than just clouds. But that's what happens. Your body regenerates and you start being able to really vividly perceive the world again. And life becomes truly beautiful. The one thing I'll add to this, and Karissa, thank you for sharing, by the way. I mean, hearing your experience, I'm just like, it's refreshing to remember back to when a lot of these things were first experienced, and those initial shifts, right, were just so powerful. They stand out so intensely. When one of the things that happens is when you bring the sexual energy into the brain, into the crown, pineal area. Again, this is another type of unifying opposite. So we talked about the heart and the sexual organs being opposite,
Yeah.
right? But also the sexual organ and crown have opposite polarity. So when you unify these things, you end up going into what's called a non-dual state. So very, very quickly, the sensation that's had during orgasm, where all of a sudden there's no thought, just pure, oh, I'm in the moment, I'm having this experience, that starts to occur. You start to experience the same effect when the sexual energy is brought up. And the idea is that that sense of oneness and that sense of bliss becomes a glow. So as you move forward in the day, you're able to maintain that. And that's what produces that sense of a magical world. You know, you've taken the energy and now you're just using it in your life. Therefore, your life becomes more beautiful. Your life becomes more magical.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's like, with, at least in my experience, without even knowing or having a name or a label for what on earth is happening, because it's just kind of happening through me. What has occurred is, apparently, I think scientists would call it, like, DMT is being released in my brain. And so because of that, I am experiencing more and more non-separateness and more unity with everything, other beings. Soul family is usually the easiest, in my experience, to have that kind of connection with, because there's a remembrance in a way. But this unity and this sense of non-separateness that occurs as you, in one sense, depolarize or level your sense of self to what is real or what is the ultimate nature of reality. There's, let's say, in this way, there's judgment, this sense of separation. And then as that levels, as you harmonize, then there's just one playing field. There's one playing. And that's how you can experience life more and more often is through the lens of one playing, which, that's it for me, I'm sold.
Excellent. Well, Karissa, this has been really wonderful to spend this time with you to dive into these topics and to talk about our upcoming trainings. These are going to be really wonderful sessions, and so grateful that I get to co-host, host, whatever you want to say. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm happy I get to create these events with you. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm excited to see all of you beautiful people there with us.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be so fun. Thank you, Tyler. And thank you, everyone who's watched. I'm excited to interact with you guys in the container we're about to embark upon.
Excellent. So everyone, I'm going to, in the description of this live stream, put the email link for tickets. If you are curious about this program, if you want to join the program, you can send me an email at tellison700@gmail.com, and tickets can be purchased through there. So I'll put that email in the description after this video has been published, so you can check that out. And also on all of my other previous videos, that same email is in the description, so it can also be found there as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Tyler.
Yep, absolutely. Well, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for hanging out with both of us, and we will see you all very soon.